How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here, welcoming you to the Panther Nation around the NCAA recap show with your Pitt Panthers coming off a 30-20 victory away at the UCF Golden Knights. Big performances from Quadri Olesen on the offensive side of the ball. Dwayne Hendricks forced a fumble and had a sack on the defensive side of the ball. A good all-around performance by the Panthers. Kind of a bend but not break performance on defense that was able to hold the UCF offense early enough that the Panthers could mount a furious comeback. 14 points in the fourth quarter, including 21 unanswered points. They were down 20-9 at one point. They come back and win 30-20 on the back of a 304-yard rushing performance. Just an unbelievable rushing effort. Two runners with 100-plus yards on the day. Of course, bookended by Quadri Olesen's 146-yard performance. Kenny Pickett, another solid performance for the Panthers. 130 yards passing. Not great by any stretch of the imagination, but did enough for the Panthers to win. And, he added 22 yards of his own. Darren Hall had 109 yards on the ground. Olesen had 146. And there was no way that the UCF Knights were shutting that Panthers rushing attack down. So Panthers did what they needed to do. 5 sacks defensively, led by an 8-tackle sack performance by Sean Idowu. Paris Ford had a huge interception on the 1-yard line that saved the touchdown and killed a UCF drive that could have really blown the game open. So a couple of big plays for the Panthers that really, showed off the talent that's on this team. And when they play and fit inside their scheme, they're very, very dangerous. They really limited UCF's total yardage opportunities. It's a big step forward for the Panthers defense that was so maligned the last couple of years. They gave up 147 rushing yards, 266 passing yards, but you never really felt like they were just getting passed all over or ran all over. It seemed like they just were in control of the game. It was really, like we mentioned before, a bend but not break performance. And when you're running for over 300 yards as a team, it's going to be very difficult for the opposing defenses to stop you, because then Pickett can break out the play action, he can roll out, they can run read option. So many different things that the Panthers were able to do. So in addition to their victory, which should hopefully see them move up in the polls, some other games around the ACC. Florida State ended up beating North Carolina in a tight 36-28 battle. Boston College blows out New Mexico State 59-13 to go 3-0. Miami upset victory over Clemson 17-14. The Kelly Bryant experiment over Deshaun Watson really struggling there. And the thing for Clemson is, if you actually looked at their schedule, they were off for 2 weeks before this game. I don't know if they had a weather that they had to reschedule for or whatever, but 2 weeks off, and like that, they fall. Number 1 Clemson is no more, knocked off by Miami. Syracuse also falls. Louisville with an easy win. That's who we'll face after our bye week. Duke beats Tulane. Virginia Tech an easy victory over an FCS school. Virginia knocks Boise State to 0-3 with a 26-20 overtime victory. And Wake Forest gets their first win by blowing out Indiana. So Penn State 48-41 over Northwestern. Trace McSorley had 7 touchdowns in this one. Unbelievable performance to keep Penn State in the thick of the Big Ten hunt and keep them off of upset alert. UCLA blows out Washington State to go to 4-0. The Bruins are looking very dynamic. So 2 teams in script looking good this year so far, UCLA and Pitt, of course. Notre Dame, touchdown Jesus, 50-6. They blow out Purdue, and that could be a future game we're looking forward to. Your Pitt Panthers will head to South Bend to take on Notre Dame a few weeks down the road. That could be a huge game. Michigan 35-30 escapes BYU. Stanford 42-28 over Oregon. Ohio State blows out Michigan. UCF stays unbeaten 45-35 over Nevada. Alabama, simple victory over Mizzou. A&M just escaped South Carolina 24-23. Wisconsin 38-14 over Tulsa. Florida knocks Tennessee from the ranks of the unbeatens with a 24-21 victory. So big win for the Gators and their SEC championship hopes. Oklahoma 35-31 over Iowa State. Arkansas 27-14 over TCU. So TCU not looking hot this year, 0-2 on the season to start off. Then a couple big SEC wins for LSU and Georgia as well. So with those performances, Orlando Sims, the freshman cornerback, 2 interceptions in the victory over Tennessee. Big performance from the freshman to help knock off the unbeaten Volunteers. And Josh Rosen, 6 total touchdowns, 489 yards passing, 41 yards on the ground for the Bruins in the victory over Washington State. Big performance by the Heisman hopeful Josh Rosen. So a couple big games on that docket. In the ACC, Joe Giles Harris for Duke, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, and an interception. 12 total tackles for the outside linebacker. Unbelievable performance. Darius Wade, 4 touchdowns, 256 yards for BC in that victory over New Mexico State. And, of course, like I said, we'd be remiss if we didn't show you Trace McSorley's stat line. 351 through the air, 66 on the ground, 7 total touchdowns, 6 passing, and 1 rushing in the victory for the Penn State Nittany Lions. And you'd expect to maybe see him on the Heisman contenders list, but after that tough loss to Pitt, he'll have a lot to make up for. Deshaun Kaiser is currently in the lead right now. He continues to lead Notre Dame up the polls, and they'll probably be number 1 after this week. Darius Geis now second. Saquon Barkley, not a great performance, 100 total yards and a touchdown. Josh Rosen's 6 TD performance brings him up into the Heisman hopefuls, as does Tay Crowder's 95-yard, 3 touchdown performance. He also had 85 yards through the air for Georgia, as they currently sit unbeaten as well. And like we mentioned, Notre Dame does take over the polls, number 1, followed by Florida State at 3-0. Ohio State and LSU round out the top 4. One loss, Texas actually sits at 5th. Of course, their only loss was to Notre Dame earlier in the season. Washington, Georgia, 6 and 7. Clemson falls to 8 after they lost to Miami, as the Hurricanes jump up to number 12. UCLA and Alabama round out the top 10 right now. Oklahoma State comes up to 11, 3-0 right now. Miami, 1 loss. They're sitting at 12th after that big victory. Virginia Tech, number 13, right after them. So a lot of ACC schools in the top. As you can see, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, all top 13 schools right now. Penn State sits at 15. Tennessee falls to 16 after losing to Florida. Your Pitt Panthers stay even in the polls at number 20, 3-0, after a arguably less than convincing win over UCF. Media darlings, Arkansas State, we know what they did last year, went undefeated before getting blown out by Texas. And I think it was the Fiesta Bowl, but they're into the rankings, unbeaten as it stands right now as well. So our big games this week, of course, your Pitt Panthers are off, but Miami hosts Boston College in some big ACC matchups this week. Miami's 3-1, Boston College is unbeaten 3-0. We'll see if the Hurricanes can continue their trend towards an ACC title this year. Virginia Tech 2-1 against 2-1 Syracuse. It'd be a tough matchup. Virginia Tech at home, but Syracuse has looked pretty good this year. Dungy's, of course, a solid quarterback, so that'll be Virginia Tech's first true test. You've also got Iowa heading to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. They're always a team that gives the Nittany Lions fits. Herb Street likes Penn State to win, of course, with their offensive talent, but that'll be a game to watch for because Iowa just has something about their mojo. Georgia Tech taking on Louisville as well. Lamar Jackson's first test in the ACC. Of course, lost to Notre Dame already this year, but see if they can knock off the unbeaten Yellow Jackets. Battle of the Unbeatens in the Pac-12, UCLA and Stanford. Herbstreit actually likes Stanford to pull the upset on the number 9 Bruins, but it wouldn't be an upset either way. Both those teams looking very good this year. Number 23, Oklahoma heads to take on Tennessee on Rocky Top. Another big game there. Out of conference to watch for. So as always, guys, let us know. We got a bye week coming up, and we're planning on showing you guys some recruiting updates. That's what we'll have in the next update for you. We'll look at who the Panthers are interested in. Of course, you'll have to take it with a bit of a grain of salt because we know at the end of every season, once we sign all of our recruits, I give you guys an opportunity to rename the recruits to kind of give them a backstory and become those recruits. And, because NCAA recruiting, the big thing with that, as fun as it is, there's not a lot of variety as far as players' names like you see, in real life, and you'll get things like that. So I like to give you guys an opportunity to kind of bring new players into the career mode and things of that nature, as opposed to creating a recruit. We kind of do a become a recruit. But we will show you the recruits that you could potentially become at the end of the year. We're going to do a recruiting update that we don't usually do. We're going to focus on those, see where we're at, and discuss that here in the next Panther Nation episode. So as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Hail to Pitt. Take care. Bye-bye.